Well, central to task-based language pedagogy is the notion of task. So in order to talk about task-based language pedagogy, one has to have a clear understanding of what one means by a task. And I've tended to define task in terms of 4 key criteria. That is to say, it's a language teaching activity where there is a primary focus on meaning, in the sense that the task requires learners to create communicative messages and understand communicative messages. The second criterion is that there's some kind of gap, and typically the gap is either an information gap, where one person has information that another person doesn't have, or an opinion gap, where people have the same shared information, but they use that information to try to agree on a particular opinion or a particular solution to a problem. The third criterion, which I increasingly feel is perhaps the most central one, is that in task-based language teaching, learners are required to use their own resources, and that includes both linguistic resources, that is to say they have to use whatever knowledge of the language that they have in order to participate in the task, and also it includes non-linguistic resources, gesture, maybe even drawing a picture, body, posture, etc. And it seems to me that it is perhaps that particular criterion that distinguishes task-based language teaching from more traditional approaches to language teaching, because in more traditional approaches to language teaching, the learners are given the language that they will need in order to do the task, and typically they are only required to manipulate that language. They're not required to create messages using their own linguistic resources. And the fourth criterion, also very important, is that there must be some kind of communicative outcome other than simply the use of language for its own sake. That is to say, in a task, language is used in order to achieve a communicative outcome. And the communicative outcome might be what kind of punishment a group of criminals should be given. It might be listening to someone and being able to draw in a route on a map, so the route on the map is the communicative outcome. In the other example I gave about the prisoners, the actual punishment that you're going to assign to the individual prisoners is the communicative outcome. So 4 criteria: focus on meaning, some kind of gap, use your own linguistic and non-linguistic sources, and there has to be a communicative outcome, not simply the display of language.
Thanks for that.